Welcome to Herons on the Fly. I'm Glenda. Mike and I are getting ready to go dry camping or boondocking, whatever you prefer to call it. We're going to try and be out for about 12 days. So I'm doing a lot of the prep work to get ready for that. And I just thought I'd share some of those things that I do, and maybe it'll help you if you want to go dry camping. And you may not go out for as long as we do. So of course, the number one thing you gotta really be conscious of is how much water you're using. We're lucky we have a 100-gallon tank, so we are pretty good, and we've actually made it, I think 13 days was the longest that we've ever been dry camping. So I'll go over some of the obvious things first. So what we do is we make sure all the laundry is done. That includes fresh sheets on the bed, towels, tea towels, and all the clothing, because we don't do laundry when we're out. The other thing is go to the grocery store and load up. You know, I try and plan meals so that I know exactly what I need. Where we're staying this year is pretty remote, and it would be a challenge to get to a grocery store if I forget an ingredient. So I need to make sure I've got everything for all of my meals covered. So the next thing I do is prep all my food. I wash all the fruit. I also go through and clean all the celery and carrots and make sure that those are ready to go. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to clean all my vegetables and make sure that I'm minimizing the amount of water I'm going to use when I'm cooking. So I cook with a lot of onions, so I'm even chopping an onion and I'll store it already chopped. I also have a salad spinner, which is great. So I will wash all my lettuce and put it in the salad spinner and make sure it's nice and crisp. I don't do this very often, but I do buy paper plates for when we're dry camping. Paper plates and bowls. And Hefty has the eco-safe ones now, which I usually buy. They're pretty heavy duty and they're microwave safe. So we will use these. Normally we don't burn our trash like this, just simply because of the fire hazard, especially this time of the year where we're gonna be, you know, I wouldn't wanna take a chance starting a fire. So we'll talk about trash control in a little bit. Think about what meals you're gonna make and what fruit and vegetables you have, and do all the prep work that you can. You can even pre-make meals, which I do sometimes. I will cook off a bunch of chicken so that that's already done. I'll cook breakfast sausage and bacon. I'll have that all pre-cooked and in the refrigerator so that you don't have to clean up a greasy mess from cooking that in the morning. And that really helps. And you can just reheat that in the microwave, or do a quick thing in the skillet to reheat it, and it doesn't make that much of a mess. So it's all about what can I do to save water, and it's nice to have things prepped. We love Mexican food, of course. We're from Texas, so we love guacamole. So avocados, I don't know if you know this or not, but I buy these green. They're hard, and you can store them in your refrigerator and then pull them out a couple days before you want to use them and let them ripen up, or you can let them ripen up and then put them in your fridge, and they last a very long time. Good tip that I found out about a year ago. So, and I usually buy Roma tomatoes instead of slicing tomatoes for sandwiches, and because they keep better. They're a little firmer and they'll keep better in the fridge, where slicing tomatoes you almost need to leave out on the counter. So that's ready, and I'll clean the corn off. Even though it will take water to boil it, I do it in a skillet instead of a pot, and it takes a lot less water. We like a lot of peppers. I cook with them, I put them in our salads. So what I do is I roast them on top of my gas cooktop. And you just put them on top of there until they get nice and charred and brown and roasted. And then I put them in a bag. I usually save old bread bags or Ziploc bags that are used, and I put them in there and let them sit until they cool off. And then the skin peels right off of them. So I'll show you after they're roasted. I'll show you how I do what I do. In the meantime, while those are cooking, trash. So you want to obviously you want to make sure all the trash is out of the house, because if you're out dry camping somewhere, there's no trash receptacles that you can go dump it. You don't want to keep it in your car, especially if you're in a bear area, because bears will break into cars. They will smell anything. They will smell lip gloss, lip balm, suntan, sunscreen, anything that has a scent. So you cannot leave anything in your car that has any odor to it. And obviously you don't want to store trash outside or in your car. So I go through the refrigerator, I clean out the refrigerator, I go through all my dry goods in the house, and even take the outer packaging off of things. I go through the freezer and take all the boxes and everything out and dispose of it before we leave. So you want to just, go through, make sure you've got all the trash out of the house. And that's another reason I pre-wash all my vegetables. I even wash my potatoes. So when we're out dry camping, we only have baked potatoes. I don't do boiled potatoes or scalloped potatoes or anything else. Baked potatoes are the quickest, easiest thing to do in the microwave. And I bake yams and I bake regular Idaho potatoes. We also pre-fill all of our water jugs. So we do have a zero water dispenser in the refrigerator, and I'll make sure that's totally full. And I will fill our water bottles that we take in the boat, and our backup water bottle. Just make sure that everything is full, along with your ice maker. Make sure your ice maker has made a full tray of ice before you go, because obviously that's using water while you're out. All right, these are getting toasty. If you need to wash your car before you leave, which we did the other day because it was filthy and covered in bugs. Okay, I cleaned out my lettuce, and this is what wouldn't fit in my salad spinner. So I just dry it off. I wrap it very gently in some paper towels and throw it in a Ziploc bag, and it will keep until we're ready to use it. So I just want to show you quickly what I do with my peppers. So I took them off the grill, or off the stove, the gas stove, and you want them to be pretty charred, okay? And then you just let them cool off, put them in the bag, let them cool off a little bit, slice them open, and you can easily remove the seeds and the extra membrane that's inside. And then you just scrape the skin off. That's very easy. It comes right off. You can peel it off. Makes a little bit of a mess, but they taste delicious. And you never waste any peppers. So once you get all the skin off, you're going to slice it into whatever strips or chunks or however you want to use it. That's great just to eat it raw in salads, or you can cook with it. But I like the skin off of it because it's not so tough. All right. Then what I do doesn't all perfectly have to be off, is I like mine in slices, so I'll just slice them. And then after I'm all done, I'll lay these all out on this sheet cutting board, and I put it in the freezer, and they freeze individually. And then you put them in a Ziploc bag and keep them in the freezer. When you're ready to use them, you can just grab however many you want out, and it works great.
I guess Glenda's not the only one prepping for all of this. All that prepping she does, we still are connected to city water here at the campground, so we're not using any water out of our fresh tank. About 12 hours out, I fill that 100-gallon fresh tank up and to overflow, and then she is using city water to do all that stuff. I also clean and flush the black tank really well and put my chemicals in it, again about 12 hours out. Any showers that we need to take or anything along those lines will be taken on city water here, so we're good to go for a day or two. When you do take showers boondocking, you're gonna get wet, lather up, and then you're going to rinse off, and that's it. And one follows the other. In other words, Glenda will follow me, or I'll follow her into the shower while the water is warm, so we don't have to run water to reheat the water again, because that's a waste of water. Also, we want to make sure, like I said, our black tank is as empty as we can get it, with just a little bit of water in, because you don't want to use the black tank with no water in it. That's a bad thing. The gray tank should be closed, and you should be filling that after you get done rinsing everything and doing all this prep and so on and so forth. You're going to take and you're going to make sure that gray tank is closed and stays closed through the whole time you're boondocking. Now, one of the things you can do to help keep your gray tank clean is, since you're going to have it closed up for a little over a week to almost 2 weeks, is you can take a little Dawn, put a cup of Dawn down your drains, and when you put a cup of Dawn down the drains, as the tank fills up, what water you use, you get a nice cleaning action in that tank, and any grease or anything that's down there, from everything from showers to whatever, gets cleaned out. So that's a really good thing. And you want to do all of that, the water, the sewer, and all that stuff, about 12 hours out, and you don't want to disconnect from city water until you have completely done all the stuff Glenda's doing, filling water bottles and so on and so forth. Now, we run a water softener, and we run a water filtration system that takes us down to 0.2 microns, which is really, really good. One of the things that you need to do is, if you haven't been using your freshwater tank, and before you go out on the road, at least once annually, sometimes twice annually, depending on how much or how little you use your fresh water tank, is you need to refer to your owner's manual, and you need to look into how to sterilize your water system. We sterilize our water system at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. And when the water tank is empty, we don't leave it closed so it can grow little critters in the bottom of the water tank. We actually leave it open so that the tank can continue to drain, because it will, among other things, it'll sweat inside that tank, hot or cold overnight, hot during the day. So doing a sterilization of your water system to make sure that there's no coliform in and the faucets and all your plumbing's clean is extremely important, and it's done with bleach. It's not real difficult, but you have to do it. There's nothing worse than being sick from bad water. Anyway, that's just one more of those things that if you're going to boondock or you're going to use the freshwater tank in your vehicle, you absolutely need to do. Sterilization of your entire water system. Now, it takes some time. It can take 6 to 8 hours depending on how big your tank is and what your manufacturer calls out for a sterilization. But it's worth the time. So prep, do it in advance, and your time out in the wild will be much better. As part of our prep for our boondocking extravaganza, these are some things that you need to consider and need to put on your prep list. First of all, whether you're pulling a fifth wheel or a travel trailer or you're driving a motorhome, you need to have a full tank or close to full tank of fuel when you get there. Second thing, if you're running your generator, whatever fuel source you have to have for your generator, whether it's diesel with your motorhome, or whether you're carrying like a Honda 2200 and you have secure gas cans or whatever it is, you need to make sure you have a full fuel supply. The next thing is, in our case, we have a propane stove in our motorhome by choice, and we have a huge propane tank. It crosses almost the whole width of the coach. It's that big. So making sure that that's filled is a primary importance, whether you're using 20-pound bottles or whatever size, or you're using a big bottle in your motorhome. Need to make sure that they are completely full. Make sure your car is full of gas too. If you're towing a car, make sure it's full, because you can't always find fuel in some of these remote spots. If you have any bills that need to be paid, pay those bills, because unless you have Starlink, you're probably not going to be connected to the internet or have phone service. Phone calls, let your family know where you are, let friends know where you are. Don't just go out there with nobody knowing where you are. That's not a good thing either. Make sure that you have cash with you. Now, I'm not going to tell you how much cash to carry, but it's important to have some cash with you in the event that you have some sort of an emergency that requires a cash payment. So that's always a good thing. Make sure you have your medical insurance cards, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it is, or Blue Cross, Blue Shield, or United Healthcare, whatever medical cards you use. Make sure you have those with you. And also all your prescriptions. Make sure you have all your prescriptions. If you take any kind of prescriptions, make sure you have enough for the duration of your stay. All of these sorts of things can bring you out of the woods in a heartbeat if you run out of any of them. And one of the last things I want to talk about in part of the prep is on your way into wherever you're going to boondock, find the closest medical care facility that there is, whether it be a hospital, a community hospital, a clinic, whatever it is, a doctor's office. Find out what the hours are, find out how far away they are, and and where they're located. And if you have quite a few medical problems, you might even touch base with them to find out what they can handle at that particular facility. All these things are to make your boondocking fun and safe at the same time. If you're going to be up in the mountains in the Rockies, be bear aware. Watch out for moose, because they're not always the friendliest things. Bullwinkle is always not the friendliest critter, And those animals that are out there, buffalo and so on and so forth, those are wild animals, and you should leave them wild. They're not pets. and they can hurt you. So don't wander around in the dark. That's another thing that you need to be conscious of. All these things are to ensure you have a good time, you know, and have your fun during the day and use nighttime for snoozing. It does require a lot of prep to do this, but it is a lot of fun when you get out there and you're right next to a river that you want to be at, or a waterfall, or a beautiful mountain scene, or the beach, or wherever it is you like to go. The best way to do this is prep, prep, prep. So if you take the time to do all this and provision and get your tanks right, and you can have a great time, and that's what we're hoping for. We've done this a few times, and we're going to do it again in a big way. Camped on the right on the Snake River and fly fish on the Snake River for several days.